Also,
no, in the
more about gel coat.
When the fourth round would...
Don't you call in the... More importantly, he knew what he was talking about.
oh, doesn't it look good already? Okay.
Jumbo Scampi for limited.
All for a price that will make you...
How the hell am I supposed to pay?
This is Rick Simpson, and you're listening to People for People Radio, the voice of truth in Scotland.
Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever the case may be in your part of the world. This is Frank Jordan with the World Healers Group, and we're here once again to discuss matters of interest from all dimensions and all realities. And I would like to invite everyone participating today to be particularly attentive to questions that you may have that can trigger responses from our group here. We have a group that has been together now for almost 6 years, and these are a group of healers, dowsers, intuitives, psychics, and we like to share our information because we're all in this ascension process together. And in many cases, people listening to us who don't even understand what ascension is and what the process is that we are going through in our progression through the dimensional levels into higher ranges of consciousness and ascended knowledge and abilities. Our abilities are inherent in everyone, and what I've discovered in working with people over a 35-year period now is that the only thing that limits our capacity to understand is ignorance of and understanding of who we are, what we are, how we function, how the systems, our physical, mental, emotional systems work, how our psychic ability works, where we are in the spiritual progression. And the second thing that's been very limiting to us in the past is we didn't understand or have any capacity to understand what the limitations were that have been placed on us. Well, with those limitations being cleared and released, we are in an incredible growth process right now. And this growth process entails listening to others and being triggered so that our own internal memory can come up, and that's memory from many sources, from our genetic past, from Earth memory of our period of incarnations here on Earth, and from our soul memories, which go back for hundreds of thousands of years or millions of years, perhaps, we don't know. And also from our intuitive path, connection into source and higher consciousness and the God force and all of the great, wonderful guides and beings that are extraterrestrial that are participating and assisting us in this growth process. So always in these talks, we flounder a little bit waiting for inspiration because we don't come into these with an agenda. We come in with our knowledge and our ability and our capacity to communicate, and we simply are available here. So this is why we welcome questions from beings out there that are listening and are on this ascension process, because we respond to your need to know. And we can share with us to degree and level of what we've learned and where we are at the present moment, recognizing that every moment is a moment of now, and the past is gone, but that it's beyond us, but we can reach back and touch into those moments of now where inspiration and guidance came through and downloaded into our biocomputers, and we can access that information. And always we're reaching into the future, asking what's next, where are we going, where can we seek guidance and direction. And that's what we're here for, is to share their knowledge and experiences. So I'd like to introduce now to you our participants for today. We have Teresa with us from Canada, and we have Catherine from Oregon, and Gaz is on here as our host today. And we're waiting for other people to chip in as they may. And we have Angel, of course, from Switzerland. Angel, what are you up to, and what do you have to bring forth today?
Well, I'm preparing for ceremonies for tomorrow night. Hi, everyone. Tomorrow night we're going to have a ceremony. There's a few shamans from Siberia who have arrived. And so we are getting ready to celebrate the 31st, because there's a tunnel of light which is going to open at midnight. And so we're getting ready for that. And then we're going to have celebrations until the 4th, 3rd of the 4th, according to the energies. Normally for the traditions, we do 4 days, so 4 days and 4 nights. And the idea is before the end of the year to look back onto what has happened during this year, and not focus on the past, and but just learn from the past and bring wisdom from the past. And to bring the energy that we want to keep for the new year, and to focus on the present moment. What do we want to see? What do we want to see happen? What do we want the new earth to look like? And who do we want around us? So it's a time of celebration. It's a time of much joy and gratitude, offering to all the elements and the different beings that are around us, talking about all the worlds of the Grandmother, connecting with the different galaxies and the different people that we are familiar with. And also the idea is to bring back the 12 expressions of our soul. So if we can connect with the 12 expressions of our soul, then we can have a better chance to awaken all the 12 strands of DNA and embody all those 12 strands in every cell, the 3 trillion cells that we have in our bodies. And create a better future, create the vision of the new earth that we want to manifest in the times to come. So before the new year, it's a time of introspection. And then as the new year starts, then it's a time of creation. There you go.
Angel, tell us more about the association, the group of people that you associate with there, and the shaman, and more gives an in-depth understanding of who you are, what you do, and what you have to offer for anyone who wants to learn and participate in their growth process through you.
So I come from a long lineage of Siberian shamans, and I was recognized as a shaman when I was about 3 years old. My parents and grandparents actually saw that. and they could tell that every time I was coming close to them, I was healing them, and nobody understood why I was so drawn to the Native Americans, because being blonde hair and blue eyes, they didn't realize why I was doing a sun dance and a rain dance in different parts of the garden. And I was asking my parents why I've got such a white skin and blonde hair and blue eyes, because I wanted to have a dark skin with dark hair and dark eyes. So now I know better. And life made it that I met a couple of Cheyennes when I was quite young. And then that gave me guidance. And I said to my parents, this is my life. This is what I want to do. And then I went to spend 14 years with a shaman in the north of America, who was very much in link with also the Celtic tradition. And when I was 14 years old, I was living in the west country of England. I was living on Merlin's land. And so I was very much linked with the Native Americans, but also very much linked with the ancient knowledge of the land in the UK and now in Switzerland. So about 20 years ago, I was recognized as a shaman by the shamans in the Americas. And I'm a pipe carrier, which means that I'm in service 24/7, and anybody can call on me energetically, and I will help them, and I will feel them, and people can see when I come. Either I come as myself or I come as a black jaguar. And my first medicine name is Jaguar of the Blue Rose. And after that, I received the name of Peji Hotawin, which means sage woman. And now I've been involved with the First Nations in the south of the Americas, in the Amazonian different tribes, the Ashaninka. And the Ashaninka are the ones who inspired James Cameron to make the film Avatar. So they really live like the Avatar. And so now I go back to the Amazonia on a regular basis, or the Amazonians come here. So I received the very ancient teachings from my grandparents from Siberia and from the Americas. And also I link the very new with the quantum medicine. And I studied at the Quantum University in Moscow and Hawaii. And so I mixed the very old and the very new. I have patients mainly online. So you can reach me on my Facebook page, Lyra Angel, or you can Skype me on Blue Star Jaguar. And I'm also a light body surgeon, meaning that I can remove the implants, devices, different blockages that people have been carrying from a very long time, and either this life, other lives, other dimensions, other realities. And I work on a cellular level as well. I have many patients who have terminal disease, and I always amazed how they can heal from the disease when they become spiritual and when they become their own master. And I teach people how to become their own shamans. I always say that I'm just there to help, for as long as they need me, but my chief aim is to help them realize their dreams, to create with greater dreams, and to become their own shamans and become their own healers. And I also do divine healing, which is a method of going layer by layer by layer into our DNA and to awaken our DNA and to work with the different strands of the DNA and the different dimensions. So if I talk about the jaguar is the master of the many dimensions. The jaguar medicine is a great healer. It has a lot of power, a lot of strength, and it's able to go into different realities and different dimensions. And that's why a lot of shamans in the South of America call on a jaguar medicine to go into different dimensions in order to heal somebody or to see what is the way forward. And at the same time, I've been involved with a couple of organizations who protect the environment and the knowledge that we all have in all the 5 continents of the sacredness that we have on our lands, on our knowledge, on the plants. And as a background, I'm a medical naturopathic doctor, also homeopath, and I don't know, I've got so many diplomas, I can't tell you everything, but anything, all to do with healing anyway. So at the end, I just, when I see somebody, I see the multidimensional being of the person, and then I can go back into other lifetime, future lives, different dimensions, and see what their dream is, why the soul comes here for. And then I mix the very old and the very new according to whatever they need. So that's about it. That's me.
Well, that's quite a bit right there. It certainly is. Well, we all recognize and humanity has recognized for years, for thousands of years, the necessity of the few who are evolved beings that choose to reincarnate back on Earth in each society and each tribe or location. We recognize that shamanism, basic spirituality, is a way of bringing to the front in any society, any group of people in the world, those that rise in spiritual consciousness as the teachers and the healers, and to lead humanity forward. And as I observe it, this is one of the primary aspects of what you do and what you've done in the past, is that you're bringing forward from the past the knowledge and traditions from all the various locations around the world that you've had access to of these teachings. And there is a commonality in all of these lands of pure spiritual knowledge that is intuitive in everyone. It's like a memory. A memory I can recall in my youth. I knew, but I didn't know what I knew. And I was always seeking and listening. And I learned to do what I call listening, which is simply letting an intuitive flow of information flow into my mind in response to any prompting or question that I may have or someone else may have. And that instinctive, intuitive channeling, if you want to call it that, or memory, bringing to the surface is in everyone. It's absolutely in everyone, depending on how many cycles they've had on this lifetime, or in lifetimes on incarnations, and how many past lives that they've dedicated to the study of spirituality and the ascension of consciousness or healing or whatever they chose to do, dependent upon their educational level or what was historically passed along in their societies. And so that's the importance right now, because with the tremendous scientific leap in knowledge that has grown in the last several hundred years here in our societies, we're pooling the scientific knowledge to have a greater understanding and a language of communication between these various sources of consciousness, which you've mentioned here. And that pooling is giving scientific validation, verification of the principles and practices that you bring through, because we're bringing a commonality of language and information to the world that is acting as a stimulant to the intuitive knowledge and healing ability that everyone has. And this is the thing that inspires me, is to be able to respond to questions that people have that can trigger their own inner knowing, and so they will listen to that inner dialogue of awareness, that deep inner knowing that is genetic, that is in Earth mind, that teaches people how to access and use this incredible biocomputer that we have. And because you mentioned the 12 levels of consciousness, the 12 chakras, and our growth and ascension is, as I've observed it, is that we come in a very open, pure state of consciousness, and as children, we're in the very basic levels of the chakra system, which is the survival levels. And as we grow and learn and expand and remember, we move our set point of consciousness, I call it, up through the various levels in that ascension of consciousness. And that's what the ascension of consciousness is. As we learn and grow and internalize, and more importantly, as we apply the information to our lives, to our reality, we become the co-creators of our experience, and not just subjective to that which has been programmed into our societies and families. So this growth process is vital to the ascension of humanity. It isn't just about science. Science is just an aspect that gives us the ability to understand spirituality and the capacity that we all have of moving beyond just interactive human beings here in a society, in a civilization, that to move into the levels of consciousness where we can share incredible spiritual abilities, like our psychic abilities, the ability to heal, the ability to extend our consciousness beyond our bodies, out beyond our physical realm, out into the spiritual realm, and the ability to heal others long distance, and the ability to read others, to resonate with others, and come to the realization that we are all one great human consciousness here. And as we clear the barriers and lack of understanding and the blocks and the ignorance away, we, just like you were suggesting, we all have that shaman within that can grow and evolve and learn. And this is what we're here to do, literally, because civilization cannot survive if it's totally dependent on just the scientific realm to care for us, because we get into the levels of domination when that occurs, and having been programmed in the past to be subjective and to limit our spiritual capacity. One of the great learnings that's occurring right now is that we are stepping beyond the limitations that have been imposed upon us by domination, dominators who would control and limit our capacity to learn. But that's all happening. We're moving beyond that now. One thing that we have done in the World Healers Group is we like to focus on a various talent or ability or knowledge, a bit of information in response to questions, and develop that by sharing the information we have with each other on not just the understanding of how things work, and not only on a spiritual level, but on a scientific level, but sharing the techniques, how we use our consciousness to influence the energies, the abilities, the powers and capacities we have in healing and our psychic abilities. And so that's what we've done with our World Healers Group in the past, is we have developed those abilities, and I get reports constantly from people who touched into us years ago, and we were able to stimulate and open them up, and they've gone out into the world and are really helping to shift the consciousness out there now. And so when we learned that through Wolf Spirit Radio, who asked me to give a talk there one time, 5 or 6 years ago now, almost 6 years ago, I guess. Wolf Spirit Radio was a place where people could talk and share and explore ideas and spirituality and metaphysics and in demonstrating healing there, just telling how it worked and energetically sending energy to the person who owned the station. Actually, Dave Corso was his name. I was able to heal his old paratrooper knees right over the air in the show, and he could function without pain for the first time in 10 years or 15 years. And but what we didn't expect or anticipate was that people listening could pick up the frequencies of healing through the airways and apply those energies to their own problems. Before the 2-hour show was over, we had people calling in reporting that they had experienced a healing while we were actually just focusing our energy on Dave. And so with that, we've attracted other healers with other techniques and other styles and other knowledge. And there's just very little out there in the world that we can't heal. And for a better explanation of that, it's not us healing the people. It's stimulating the people to resonance to heal themselves. And that's where the teaching comes in. To me, every healing is a spiritual experience. Every healing, no matter who it is, we're sending the knowledge, downloading, stimulating the information that people already have out there from their own shamanic backgrounds or from the past. We're stimulating them to utilize the knowledge and information to become healers themselves. And this occurs astonishingly on the things that happen as we do healing work. So what we recognize and realize very quickly that healing is a wonderful foundation for teaching the other spiritual gifts and abilities, the psychic ability, developing all levels of skill and consciousness. And so now we feel like we can feel almost anything, and of course we're learning as we grow and go also. And so the questions that we receive from the group listening stimulates our own knowledge and information and participation, and that's why we like to encourage people to ask questions.
Frank, I think you just hit your mute button. You disappeared.
Yes, I did. Well, I'm back. All right. Tim Goodsall asked a question about near-death experiences in the white tunnel light during near-death experiences. Is this something to be avoided? He's heard it said that while we are still incarnated, we should affirm, I want to go back home, or I want to go back to the source. This is so that we don't head toward the white. Let's see if there's more to that question. White light tunnel. Otherwise, we supposedly reincarnate again when we transition death. Well, the death experience, the transition, what happens after we release from the physical body, has been one of the subjects that we've explored quite extensively. And we have a wonderful shaman in Hawaii. Rich is his name, and he usually participates with us. And he will be with us in the future, telling about what he's learned. He's written several books on the subject. But from my own experience, the white light is a transitional stage we go through as our souls disconnect from the physical body, as we release control over the physical organism, and our soul begins to lift up out of the body. The white light, the tunnel that's described by people who had near-death experiences, and we've had many reports of people who've gone over and stepped into the first stages of that, and usually what they report is that they are met by relatives and very wondrous beings and beautiful sound and frequencies and energy and light. And sometimes they have the opportunity to come back and continue their lives. And they come back into body and the soul reincarnates. I've had the opportunity myself to assist people through the death process in releasing people who were in fear. They were resisting the transition, and they were terminal, and they didn't know what to expect. So I could tune in and work with their souls consciously and help them in the process of transition and releasing. And it is a painless experience. That's one thing everyone should understand. The pain of the physical body is one of the first things that releases, and the disconnect and the release. And in that opportunity, many things can happen, and one is people have reported there's a block, a white light, a tunnel that they can go into, and it's been reported to us from other psychics, and I don't know how true this is, that the archons, a foreign, an extraterrestrial alien intelligence, set up and established a soul capture thing where our souls were captured, and if we went into that white light, they would recycle us and send us back down into the earth again. And that's the first question we want to address, is what others in the group understand and know about that, if that's true, and how that works, and what we can do to bypass that. Angel, have you had experience with that?
Yes, there are lights which are very, basically the idea is not to go to the white light. And there are lights which are very enticing that people are drawn to at first. And that would go back into the recycling pod. Like people have been souls are incarnating lifetime after lifetime. So the idea is to have a very clear intent. It's very important as well, as much as one can, to be as clear-headed as possible, because the ancient shamans would actually train themselves to take their own bodies with them, and to actually go to the other side whenever they choose to. Unfortunately now, because a lot of people are full of chemicals and not in their right minds when they cross over, a lot of the time they don't know where they are going, which is also a problem. There are ceremonies that we do in shamanism once the somebody crosses over. So we help them and we trace the path. There are different maps that shamans have drawn over the centuries that we can follow, so we can help the soul actually go out of the recycling pod and go back to where they should go to. So it's a ceremony done over 21 days. And often people ask me to do that actually when they know that they have a loved one or themselves, when they are ready. So they would call, so we can have a ceremony just before if we can, or after. So basically the first lights that a soul would see are not the lights to follow.
Okay. My experience with that has been that first light you experience is one that the dominators, some of the so-called gods set up in our consciousness thousands of years ago to limit us from access to our spiritual higher realms, and that light is put there by a strong religion, or giving away your soul, so to speak, giving someone else the responsibility, or some group or some religion responsibility for your soul. And they happily take responsibility for it, because that's how they kept us in control and subjugation to them. And one of the great things there was the creation of the original sin, and that concept of the religions, that every human born is born with this original sin, and only the church can release and account for that, give us passage through that, or clear that original sin from us through baptism. And well, when they baptize us and do the sign of the cross, and whether we're infants or adults, it doesn't matter, they implant this light right behind the frontal lobes of the brain, between the brain and the indwelling soul. And I noticed this years ago, that when I began to develop my psychic ability and healing, that when I'd go out through the third eye or try to do healing work, I'd have to go around this light. And I had, finally, out of curiosity, I went into it one time. I developed the ability to resonate with frequencies, and I went into it and was given the realization that light was put there when I was about 8 years old, and I was baptized by a Catholic priest, and that imprinted the fear of death, the fear of hell, and the patterning and programming, and that I always had to go to the church or through a priest in order to access God, that I couldn't go directly. Well, when I was about 18 years of age, I was getting absolutely nothing from the Catholic Church. I could see no point in it, and later on, I realized that I was still carrying that light in that block in my forehead, and so I intentionally went to the church and asked to be released of my vows that I made in the baptism rites. And it seems to be a universal law of higher consciousness that when we ask to have that released, they have to do it. And the church did pull and clear that back away from me. And so then I had access to Source and to higher consciousness and to my guides, and my other abilities began to develop. My psychic abilities, clairsentience primarily, and clairvoyance and clairaudience, things like that. And so I worked with people over the years. The first thing I do when I talk to people now that are interested in developing their spirituality or getting access to Source is that we clear that block out of their heads. And it's a pretty simple thing to do. You simply take your point of attention back to the church or to the priest that baptized you, if you can remember, or the Pope themselves, and ask to be released of the vows that were made, and do it with energy. And just with energy, you can just physically put an energy force behind that block and push it out of yourself. Well, that frees up the third eye and allows you to go directly to Source and to the crown chakra, not to the top of your head. Otherwise, that sits up there and blocks access to higher consciousness. And so, in working further with people who were dying and whatnot, I would go into them and resonate with them and clear that block out of them, and then they could. Then that also seemed to clear the tunnel, because we were clearing them so they could go through their own desire and will directly to Source, and that would clear the tunnel, and it would be a different experience. It wasn't that getting into a state of suspension or purgatory, as the Catholics call it. We could go into a higher consciousness, and when we did that, then the souls were free to continue their evolutionary process. Now, we do have with us today, Rich popped in here a few minutes ago, and Rich has done an extensive study of this. Much of the work he has done has been in helping trapped souls that are trapped here in the physical plane, and clearing them and releasing. And Rick, can you talk to us now? Rich in Hawaii?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Would you please tell us of your work and how it fits into this question of?
Yeah, it's very interesting, this concept of the archons. When we're dealing, okay, when I cross souls over, people have two souls. They have what I call an earthbound soul. You call it the low soul. and we have what we call a heavenly soul or high soul, okay? And they really are two basic different consciences, and they have to be crossed over separately unless people have come to a state of enlightenment and self-realization, which the majority of people don't, at least not in the United States anyway, because they're stuck on this, what you call religion. And they're also have soul shock, which is Frank was talking about, where people, I just had a lady get killed 2 days ago right off the street where we live, and I had to cross her over. And what was interesting about that facet was the high soul, when it crosses over, it goes back to its soul group, but the high soul has the ability to return back into the third dimension because it goes up to the fifth dimension, and it has the ability to communicate with whoever it wants to. So when you're a psychic and you have the ability to communicate, you can communicate with these souls that have crossed over and come back. Well, in this particular case, the brother of the lady, this lady was going down the highway. It was on Christmas night, and the story is that the guy that was riding the motorcycle swerved, and she fell off the motorcycle, going probably 50 miles an hour. She hit the pavement, then a car just ran over her and killed her. But she was completely in soul shock. She had no idea what she was doing. So her brother came from the other side and escorted her high and low soul to me. And she was just kind of in a numb state of disbelief about what was going on. So now let's go back to this thing about the archons, okay? If the archons, I'm not convinced that they control everything, but if they do, it's the lower soul, okay? It's not the higher soul, because you have to remember the higher soul originates from someplace else. We didn't originate here. Our souls are eternal, are mortal. So our high souls have come from other planets. We come here to incarnate into a physical body to experience what it is to be on Earth. And a lot of us that are light workers, like everybody in this group, you are given some sort of an opportunity to do something for Earth. Like Frank, you were given the opportunity to come here and educate man and enlighten him about the things that you're talking about, especially like this religious thing you're talking about, the white light between the third eye and the frontal lobe. I've taken hundreds of those things out of people like you have, but that's just one little thing. But that's really important because like the people that come to you that they're sick of religion, right? Well, their higher soul says, okay, it's time to find something else because this isn't working. My soul's already experienced this probably in a half dozen lifetimes, past lives, and it's time for us to move on. Same thing happened to me. That's why I wrote the first book, Subtle Energy in the World We Experience, because a lot of, Frank, what you're teaching is in that book, because I had to free myself of all these religious ideas, and I still have to free them from all the metaphysical, esoteric things that come across what psychics come up with too, because there's a whole group of psychics that have all kinds of ideas that may not be true at all. Maybe they've experienced it, like you and I have experienced a lot of things, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. It could be maybe in one dimension it's true, but not in all dimensions. So it's a process I've gone through of reevaluating and looking at things. Now, I find this whole concept of the white light really interesting, but I suggest in my book that people go into the light, because if they go into the lower soul and they go into down into earth mind, they're going to reincarnate again, most likely. and they're going to have another opportunity to experience life again in the physical body. If they're connected to a high soul and they cooperate with the high soul, then they can merge with the high soul eventually, and they don't even have to come back, okay? It's kind of a, but you got to understand that there's a lot of extraterrestrial influence in this, because I would imagine I've crossed over UFO soul groups. I mean, I was at a place one time where I crossed over probably 100 alien souls, and they were stuck. And so not all alien souls have all this incredible ability, because there's all kinds of different extraterrestrial beings, okay? Just like the IQ of humans can be low or high. There can be a lot of real morons running around doing things, or there could be a lot of geniuses running around. It's kind of the same thing with the alien groups, okay? So, but I crossed over a bunch of alien groups, and they thanked me for it. So, there's good and there's bad. Now, I'll tell you a really interesting one. In my book, there's a chapter on called Google Hill. Google Hill was an area during World War II where the Marine Corps trained for Iwo Jima. And since we have Mount Haleakala, which is nothing but a big volcano full of lava rock, which resembled Iwo Jima, they forced all these Marines to do these exercises there before they took them on that island. Well, I went to that place one night, and I crossed over all the Marines that had returned there from being killed, and a lot of other soldiers. And then Hawaiian groups that had been there prior, that had fought King Kamehameha and died, and all that kind of stuff. But there were so many souls on this side of the island that I really didn't have the power to open all these vortexes. And that's where the Galactic Center came in and helped me generate the energy I needed I had to open 10 vortexes and bring it and cross over 10 different soul groups. And I had angels, so many angels come in. And the angels are the ones that really assist me in crossing souls over, because they can direct the souls to the correct soul group. And lo and behold, standing in front of me was a gray, standing out in the distance, giving me energy to do this. So now I'm looking at this thing going, holy shit, here I've got this alien influence of energy helping me cross over souls, including themselves, so that people can have the opportunity to reincarnate. So there's more to this than just saying that the archons are there to trap our souls. That could be true to a certain degree, but I'm not really convinced that it's carte blanche, okay? Because now when you look at the heavenly soul, I can cross over myself. I have gone to my soul groups. I have a picture on the front of my book of a vortex going to an Hawaiian setting. Well, I was sitting on the beach at Kamali 3 one night with my wife, and I crossed over this Hawaiian soul group, and they said, why don't you come with us? And I said, okay. So I projected my higher consciousness and went with them. Now, I could only go so far. And the rule of it is you're not allowed to cross the veil, so to speak. There's kind of like a place where, okay, if you go across, it's pretty well you're done, okay? You're going to stay there. And so I have this angel Gabriel, and he helps me a lot because he warns me about things. So I'm standing at the threshold of this picture in my book. I'm standing there in the beach. I'm looking at these souls, and waving at me and loving me and showing me that that was one of my past life experiences. That's why I'm in Hawaii now, because I have such a strong connection with these ancestors here that I'm given permission to work with the ancestral spirits on the islands, and they don't try to hurt me. They accept me and allow me to clear all of these souls that are stuck here. Now, I don't know how long that'll last. I don't know. I may not live here forever, but whatever. So anyway, getting back to the vortex, that was it. I looked inside. I saw it all. It helped me understand, but I had to come back into my body, and I realized that, okay, that was one of my past lives. And you probably all could do that. You guys all have probably a psychic ability well enough to do that yourself if you just understood it. But I use my angels. This is really important because these angelic beings they hold the vortexes open for me, and they make sure that the souls go to their appropriate places. And I also ask for a member of the soul group to come to the entrance of the vortex. Now, if they're a lower soul, I ask for their ancestors to come. If they're a higher soul, it's usually one of their family members that they recognize, father, grandmother, who knows. But I use that, and that reassures the soul that, okay, I'm going back home. And I've taken some of these souls that are really violent souls that, people call me and I go into their shops and souls are knocking over the shelves in their and they're literally knocking over glass displays. They're pissed because they're stuck and they don't want to be there. And they're upset because all these humans are walking into their space. But once I communicate with them and explain to them that, listen, you're dead, okay? This is number one. You're dead. You're not okay? And you have an opportunity to have another life because this was not your only life. And that's where religion really messes people up, especially Christianity, It's appointed a man to live once and to die. That should be taken out of the Bible. That's really screwed up. Anyway, so these people come into this mindset that, oh, this was the only life I had. Why? It's because when they die, their consciousness remains the same in the third and fourth dimension until they cross over or they go down into earth mind. So their thinking process is the same as what it is right now. And that's what really is the challenge, is to allow these souls to understand that, wait a minute, that was only one chapter in the book of your life, okay? That's what you experienced while you were on earth. That is your reality today because that's all you know, because this is what your mind held, your subconscious mind held as truth and reality. Okay, so now you understand that this is what you experienced and that's your reality. But that's only a lesson for your soul to experience. You remember Frank says, we come into the world to experience all things possible. That's probably one of the most profound things you've ever said, Frank, because we come into this world to experience certain things for our soul's growth and evolution. And some of them are really shitty. Some of them are really good, though. So we take the good with the bad. So, and then we have karma to deal with, especially with the lower soul. It's just, we're basically animals that have been reprogrammed to be in a human body, and then the higher soul comes in and tries to educate and discipline the lower soul. So it's quite a process to go through to get the lower soul to cooperate with the higher soul. And I've had so many people come in and they're struggling with certain things, and once I explain that concept to them, they just go, "Oh, okay, now I understand." And okay, I said, "Yeah, you got to get a hold. Let's communicate with your lower soul now, and let's get things understood. Let's go back and look at your karma. Look at your past lives. What were you like before? What's your family flow?" Frank can give you. He could do half dozen shows just on family flow. I mean, he's done way more on that than I have. So, but getting back to when I'm crossing souls over, unless they've come to a state of realization about their souls, basically I have to cross two different consciousness in different places. Okay. Now you watch TV and all you see are the ghosts that are creating all these problems. Those are usually low souls that are stuck, that are pissed off, and then the people that go in there to work with them piss them off more because they aggravate them because they want everybody to see that there are ghosts. So once you understand that ghosts are really lower souls trapped in the third dimension and fourth, then you come to the realization that these poor souls need help, okay? They're just crying out for help. And that's where I come in, because I go to these hay owls, which are basically previous places of worship and that the Hawaiian people used to use. And there's a lot of souls there that are still there. Matter of fact, I went down to the beach the other day to go snorkeling, and I was sitting on the beach and waiting for my daughters to come in, and these souls approached me. They were Hawaiian souls that had died a couple of years ago, 100 years ago, I mean. And they were still there. And they said, "We don't want to be here anymore." And I said, "Well, I'll send you back to your soul group, and then you can decide where you want to reincarnate again or not. That's your choice." We have the freedom our souls have the freedom to choose what they want to do. Now, granted, there may be extraterrestrial beings that could do this with our souls. And maybe what they're looking for is to use our souls to experience things here on Earth. And that could be very true. Okay, I'm not trying to disagree with people, because I tell you what, there's a lot we don't know. Okay, I'm not, I've crossed over thousands and thousands of souls, but I'm not the ultimate authority about everything. Believe me, because there's a lot of things out there that I don't think any of us understand, especially when you get into the 7th and 8th and 9th and 10th, 11th and 12th dimensions. I get up into those places. I don't even know what I'm looking at. It's just light beings of energy that are beyond my mind's comprehension. But, and I believe there are extraterrestrials that are helping overlook our souls here. And because we've come from other places. I did a past life regression with a lady one time, and she took me back in time to a place where I had never been before, where I was actually given my assignment for this earth. And I was given an assignment to come to Earth to bring information to mankind and try to enlighten them about their souls. That's why I've been writing these books. And it was quite interesting to me to see that I chose it. I wasn't forced to do anything. I chose to do it. I chose to come here and do what I'm doing. And I don't know how effective I'm going to be in this lifetime, but all of you that's in this group, you already understand how important it is for all of you to help other people grasp this concept of that our souls are eternal, that we have our own personal power, Frank's done a great thing about what he was just talking about, going back and getting your personal power. That is just the key for our souls to go on. I thank you for that, Frank, because that was one of the most enlightening things that I've ever learned, that we can actually get our power back. That's why I put it in that book, and that's what I understand about our souls is the fact that, yeah, there might be archons out there. There could be all kinds of other things out there. But I think if we have our own power in place, we don't have to deal with that. But that's not the majority of souls in the world, okay? We have the power. Because when I go into places in clear souls, I don't let anybody push me around. I call in my angels. I call in the Galactic Center. I call in my ancestors. I call all my people, even in my own soul group, to help me. I got a myriad of helpers. And I ask them to give me strength and to clear the way for me so that I could help these souls that are in desperate need of getting out of these freezes of time and space that are preventing them from reincarnating and going back and discovering who they really were. And I'm still perplexed at times on how these souls can be stuck in these time periods and no one comes to their rescue. And it doesn't really serve a purpose to me for them to be there. And that's, if that's maybe possibly due to archons or something, then I could maybe buy into that idea. But I'm still learning, guys. I mean, I could cross over souls every day I do it, but it's like there's still this world of dimensions, these dimensions that are so close to each other, and they overlap each other, and they cross through each other, and it's like a big matrix of a hologram, a matrix of dimensions. And somehow we're stuck in these ourselves. And that, one other thing I'd like to comment was that when I first started this like 5-6 years ago, I'd go down and I'd cross over maybe 1,000 souls one night. I'd have these soul groups come to me. That's in my book. You'll see pictures of walls of orbs of souls, literally walls, just thousands of them. They come to me, and I ask my angels to divide these souls up according to their soul groups, and I would cross them. I'd explain to them that they're going back and they can reincarnate, and they'd all leave. Okay, then I would take a picture. There's no orbs; they're all gone. I go back a day or two later, and here's another wall. And I couldn't figure this out, especially when I went over to the Big Island, and I was crossing over just huge soul groups all the time. Well, I found out that those were split souls. Now, this is really interesting, the fact that our souls have the ability to split and be in different places. So when you take, like, one of our soul, our higher soul, we could be a accumulation of a dozen or 24 or 100 different other smaller segments of who we really are, experiencing certain things, coming back, merging together as a whole. And that's what I think these soul groups are for, is for us to gather all this information, come together and understand who we and experience. Because I call God the prime creator, because I don't like religious words. The prime creator is a collection of all of us together. And it's quite fascinating to think about that you and I are part of the God consciousness of the universe. And that's why I have this passion to help all these souls reunite with their soul group, because I believe it's very important, because they're being fragmented Now, the archons might be able to take a certain fragment of our soul and hold it there, but I don't think they can take the whole thing, because I don't think we are the whole thing. I think that Frank's soul right now in him is only a segment of who he really is, because he's probably in other dimensions as well. So, that's another book. I kept thinking I'm going to write another book after. And I go back to this book I have right now, Afterlife in Hawaii. I have to change publishers, and I'm reformatting the book into a 6x9 book, because the publisher that I was previously used did such a poor job of showing my pictures and things that I have to republish it. So if you get one of my old books, or the newer book that's out now, please understand that the quality of the pictures aren't good, so please forgive me. But the newer book I'm going to do all I can. I'm going to have to pay more money to get a better printer, but I'm trying. The reason why I'm putting the pictures in the book is to show people that our energy still exists after we die, and that we don't just disappear. And these orbs hold our consciousness, and they merge together. Many times they'll merge together in a commonality, like a nationality. And you'll see in my book, I got, like, when I crossed over all these orbs at Safeway, they had built a supermarket on a Hawaiian burial ground, okay, that had been there for hundreds of years. The employees were going in the morning and finding the groceries stacked to the ceiling. The employees were being pushed around by spirits. They were scared to death to even go. Hardly anybody went into this store. I mean, it was a huge store. And I went in there, and I walked it back to the back section, and I had all kinds of souls around me and saying, hey, can you help me? And I said, yes, I will. So my wife and I went back in the evening. We sat on the parking lot in the back with our camera. And we had orbs coming to us that were like 3 and 4 feet in diameter. We didn't even need, you looked through the camera and there they were. You didn't need a flash. You didn't need anything. They were there. There was 200 souls per orb. And they were just so upset that I had to do ho'oponopono with them and get them to forgive the contractors who built the supermarket. And I acted as the intermediate person who said, okay, I'm sorry, please forgive me, since I was Caucasian. And yeah, okay. So anyway, I didn't want them to cross over pissed off. I wanted them to go back and be ready to reincarnate and understand that there's a lot of ignorance in this world concerning the afterlife. And corporations are the ones that, there's just a board of directors, and they're looking at money, and they could care less about anything. They just want to make some money. So they put resorts on heiaus in Hawaii that were ancestral burial sites for hundreds of years. They don't care. What do they care? They live in New York City or someplace. They don't even know what a heiau is. So that's one of the things that needs to be addressed. I know some of you have been working with the Native American people and stuff, and the Native Americans really have an excuse to be upset with some of the stuff that's going on, because people don't respect their ancestors. And anyway, that's another story altogether. But you have any questions you want to ask?
Just as a word of explanation for you folks, Rich was a Christian minister for 15 years or more, and when he came to me, he was one of the most confused people I ever saw in my life as far as spirituality is concerned. A little work with me and a little understanding of how things work, and he's been able to transition into this incredible work that he's doing now. And towards the end of the show here, where we usually do healing, we will do some processes of clearing the white light and everyone can participate in it and get the feeling of how to do that for others. But we'll do that later. Rich, for further explanation, talk to us some more about orbs, how you discovered them, what they are, and how you work with them, because that's wonderful information in itself.
Okay. Well, my wife and I discovered orbs while we would go out at night and we would just take pictures. And the thing is that our souls are just at a little higher frequency than what our naked eye can see. But for some reason, depending on what kind of camera you have, flashes will capture those images. And it's really, anybody can do this. Depends on if there's any orbs around you. So we'd go out and we would take pictures and we would have all these different colored orbs. And I would tune into them and I'd try to find out what they were. And then I learned that certain colored orbs were heavenly souls or high souls. And then other souls, like the blue ones, were the lower soul, the earthbound soul. And then I would enlarge these orbs multiply them times 50, and there's faces in them. There are literally human faces in them or animal faces. Now, the other night, June says, well, let's go out in the backyard and take some pictures. And I go, okay. So we went out there and we started clicking away, and there were these orbs in our yard. And I was talking to my Gabriel, and I said, there's no human souls here. And these particular orbs, they don't really want to communicate with me much. They're kind of almost afraid of me. So I said, come in closer, please. We want to communicate with you. And they came into the backyard, and I got some pictures. So I went inside, put them on my computer, and enlarged them. And there were a picture of a horse, lion, different animals. They were Devic spirits. They were animal spirits, okay? And lots of times they'll come, and I have a Siamese cat, and they love to play with my cat, and they love to help my cat, like catch rats and stuff. So those are orbs. Not all orbs are human. Then I've had other orbs that were white, long, oblong things. And there's a vortex in Maui over here next to the grocery store, and it has UFOs come in through it, triangular objects, multicolored triangular objects come to me, round blobs of white light come to me. And I come to realization they're non-human. They're some sort of a cross-dimensional life form, and all they want me to do is acknowledge them. So I acknowledge them as who they are. I really haven't been able to communicate with them because my guides can't communicate with me because they're not human. But I recognize the fact that they are some sort of a life form, okay? But getting back to the human soul, what happens is when we die, our spirit allows our consciousness, our souls, to continue on, because the spirit is connected to the prime creator. And that's why our souls can continue, is because the prime creator's subtle energy continues to feed our souls outside of our body. So here we are, we're in this massive rotating energy that holds a consciousness of memory, thought patterns. That's our soul. And it takes on different colors. And sometimes it'll merge with other souls in its own soul group, because we like to be with others that we associate with. That's part of our human nature. We associate with others, just like animals do too. So these souls, if you look inside my book, you'll see in my backyard I have a whole group of souls coming right up to me, and they are women. They were a group of women from the Marquis Islands that had come here, that had been raped and killed by other people, and they all formed together, and they all stayed together, and they all came in. They were kind of different colored orbs, but they all had the same consciousness. They were all these Hawaiian, or Marquis, which is South Polynesian women that had stayed together. And but when I cross them over, I open the vortex, and you'll see a couple pictures in my book. One is a bright yellow vortex leading into Earth Mind. And they just go down through those vortexes back into their soul group. And then they merge in the Akashic Records. So, so orbs can be, all kinds of colors. And like when I was on the Big Island, I had this huge orb. And man, the thing must have been 500 feet in diameter. It was huge. And it was the kahunas, the priests, that I crossed over. And they were a powerful group of Hawaiians at that time. They were the ones, I have a chapter called People Only Respect Power, because they were the ones that made the decisions. And their thinking process was power rules, okay? That was their mentality. I'm sure it still is. So you wonder why the world's the way it is? It's because the consciousness hasn't changed. It recycles. So that's where the light workers come in. We're trying to raise the consciousness of people to a higher elevation of unconditional love. That's the key. We got a lot of work to do in that area, especially when it comes to lower souls. So I don't know if there's more I can add to orbs or not. That's pretty much, I think anybody that has a flash camera can go out and take pictures. And if you put your intent into seeing souls, you'll probably have them show up for you. Now, the problem is most people don't have any idea what they are or what to do with them. So that's, everywhere in the world I go, I take pictures, I see orbs. So they're usually either animal spirits, they could be fairies and gnomes, because those exist. We have a whole fairy garden in my backyard. They're just simply a demonic spirit that takes on the shape of a little human, but they can communicate with you. They're kind of like pets in a sense. And then I think the key to this is you have to believe it. You have to open your mind to the fact that there are other beings in other dimensions that coexist with us. And that's why getting rid of the white light in your head is so important, because when people get programmed into thinking that Christianity is the true religion, then what have they really done? They've really blocked themselves from all the other options available for mankind to choose from. And that's why, I was evangelist for 25 years, Frank.
Okay.
I was so brainwashed. But, let's go to that subject of the light, because you did that with me about clearing Christianity. But I went one step farther, because after you kind of introduced me to it, I went home and I started working with this a lot. And I was able to take the Bible. Now, I had the Bible, almost New Testament, pretty much memorized. Not memorized, pretty well known. Read it every day or twice a day for 20 years. I brought that light into me and said, okay, I'm erasing all of this knowledge or information. It's not knowledge, it's information in my subconscious mind and superconscious mind, conscious mind. I'm erasing it. And I brought in that light, and it was kind of like, have you ever seen a copy machine where you turn it on, you see the white light crossing back and forth? That's what it looked like to me. It was erasing all of that out of my head. And when it was done, I took the Bible, I opened it up, I started reading it, and it absolutely made no sense to me at all. It contradicted itself so many places. Like God gave his only begotten son. Okay, wait a minute, hold it. Let's just stop there. An only begotten son? We all are sons of God. So it was like, whoa. It changed my whole perspective about what I had been taught, which allowed me to say, okay, so what don't I know? Okay. Now I need to start learning about who I am as a soul. Now, that's where my mother came in. My mother had died years ago. Her high soul would come to me at night and teach me about the afterlife. She would say, I was working with a soul group of children, helping souls cross over in Africa. And she would teach me and explain to me about soul groups and things. So I learned from my mother, who was deceased. So that's that ability for the higher soul to come down and communicate in the third dimension. And then what's really funny was about 3 years ago, I was teaching a class on basically how to use crystals and clear your chakras. And I walked into this room, and there was this other psychic with me. She's really clairvoyant. She goes, oh, how come you got all these people in this? How come there's so many souls in this little room, Rich? Look at these guys up here. They all want to listen to you. And I said, oh, that's my dad, and that's Grady. Now, Grady was a Baptist preacher. He was the guy that I used to preach with at the homeless shelters. And he was there to learn about what I was teaching about energy. And my dad was up there, and he goes, you know, I used to think you were just full of shit, Rich, all this metaphysical crap. But he says, I understand that you were right. So I'm going to listen to what you have to say. So that was really an eye-opener to me, that departed souls can come back and observe and learn from either people on earth as well. So because they go to their soul group and they realize that, oh man, I was really off on this one. Well, that's okay. It was just a lifetime of experience for you to learn. Well, I'd like to learn some more. So I wonder how many souls are listening to your program, Frank, from they're coming in and listening and gathering information. Not just human soul, that are listening to your radio program, but they could be from soul groups coming in and listening about what you know. And then they're going back and evaluating whether it's true or not. And that's the beauty about this thing. We take the information that we learn and we evaluate it, whether it holds true or not. And listen, if it doesn't hold true, just let it go. It's no big deal, because we can be wrong and we can relearn. We just let the ego go, because it's not important. It really is not important, because on the other side, there's so much more to learn. So when I'm in the process of doing all of this, I'm still learning and learning and learning and learning. So that's why I like this group, because you all got different ideas, like the Archon thing. I'm not really sure what to believe about that, but I believe it could be true in some aspects, but I don't think it's true all the time, because I really dealt with them, okay? Maybe that's because I'm working in a different dimension, different realm. And I already have the Galactic Center helping me. So I feel sorry for people that don't believe in aliens, because we're influenced by aliens all the time. And there's some really good ones out there. Then there's those. I think the universe is just like this earth. There's the good and there's the bad. The bad meaning they're selfish and dominating. The good are the ones that are benevolent and they want to help whoever they can help. And I think there's a combination of both. And us as a group, I think we recognize this already. We try to help. We're trying to find a balance. That's what I'm trying to do. Trying to find a balance in this world of chaos. And it's quite a challenge. So I don't want to be real dogmatic about any of this, what I experienced, because that's what I experienced. So if you guys experience something different, that's fine. And you explain it in the terms that you understand how to explain it, okay? Your knowledge may change in the future, your understanding may change, but we only know what we know, so we just need to share what we know and try to understand and glean from what we experience. That's all I can tell you, because I'm sure that there's more on the horizon for all of us to learn. And but I'm so thankful, Frank, that you came up with some really good ones to begin with.
Well, Rich, I just want to thank you for coming back in with us again and bringing your new experiences and sharing with us. And I'd like to take this a step deeper now. All of these things you heard Rich talking about are the extrapolations of consciousness and working with energy and energy fields. And when we go underneath the dynamics of anything, there's always the physics that support the dynamics of energy. And so with realization, we go into underneath the whatever the physical thing is we're talking about here, the experience, whether it's spiritual or psychic or consciousness or whatever. There's always a physics that underlies that physical form, and behind the physical form, through the veil, is always the quantum field. The quantum field that has all of the potential that we drop through the veil into the physical realm of 3-dimension, 4-dimension. And so what I like to do is help people to understand that with real self-realization, which is internalization of knowledge, and self-realization, which is the recognition that you have the power, the personal power, to do things with this knowledge or information. You translate that into knowledge that you can apply. That's going beneath the physics into metaphysics, bridging the two together. Your camera's on, Rich. And thank you. So what we like to do is help people to come to the self-realization that you can do everything that you hear discussed or talked about. You have the capacity, you have the power, you have the innate spiritual knowledge of how to do these things. So when Rich is talking about seeing orbs, everybody says, "Oh God, I wish I could do that." Well, you can do that. And so I'd like to demonstrate to you how you internalize information and bring it into self-realization. It's just a process of opening up the fields of consciousness, because everything is just fields of energy. So when you step out of this the first thing you do is take your awareness out of the physical realm of 3D, back through the veil into the quantum field, or in the innate field, where everything becomes energy. And then you can do these things. So to see orbs, as Rich was describing it, I'm going to describe a process now that Rich taught me, because everything he talks about or anyone talks about, I always go beneath the dynamics of it to look at the energy, to what's really happening. And then I can do these things. So let's do a little meditation here, and I'll walk you into a process, and Rich can amplify it, simplify it too, when I tell how I do it. But just get relaxed. Always we go through the same process of accessing the subconscious mind and the innate mind. Take your awareness up into your forehead, and what you're accessing there is with your point of attention is the frontal lobes of the brain, the desktop of your biocomputer, where everything is worked out in a linear fashion, A plus B equals C. And then dropping right straight back, and we'll work later if we have time on any of you who haven't cleared that white light block there in your forehead, and I can feel just the resonance coming back off the computer. Of many of you still have this. So we'll do that first. We got to get that thing out of the way before you can do this other work. Just as you step back towards the indwelling soul, feel that light, bright light in your forehead. Now that is an implant. Quite frankly, it's an implant by religions or church or people with strong spiritual beliefs that you gave your personal power away to, and allowed them to take control of your indwelling soul. Just take your point of attention into that light. It blocks your third eye. A lot of people think that's a spiritual light in your head. Well, it is, but it's a light that's controlled by religions.
It's a false light.
Exactly. Now, just take your awareness into that light and go beyond the light back to its source, whatever the source may be, when you were baptized or when you, as Rich did, became a Christian or whatever, it doesn't matter. Go back to the source and talk to the source. And do this with energy from your heart center. All right, we're going to talk like, for example, the Baptist Church or the Catholic Church. Catholic Church, listen to me. Because when you focus your attention like this, you can set up a resonance with that source back in time. Catholic Church, Christian Church, whoever, listen to me. I'm asking you to accept the fact that I want to relinquish any vows I made to you that gave you power over my spirituality. I thank you for the lessons you taught me. You helped me to learn civilization and humanity. But I'm asking you now to pull back your programming, your patterning, your belief system. Pull back now your desire to control my reality and my spiritual life and experience. Pull it back. I release all connections, all energetic resonance with the church or the spiritual group. I take back my personal power and my right to determine how I want to contact Source and Spirit. And also pull back any programming of fear of death, fear of sin, fear of hell and damnation, and particularly pull back the program that I will lose my soul if I don't follow your precepts and teachings. Pull back your control over my soul. The fear you implanted in loss of soul, the loss of my life and spirituality. Now, folks, as you're doing this, you can feel energy move out of every part of your body because this is an incredible, powerful force. Just let it all go back to Source. Thank you, church or religion or spiritual group, whatever. Thank you, and I forgive you. Now I reclaim my right to directly communicate with Source, with God. And I close all connections, I sever all connection with the church and all patterning and programming and teaching of the church or religious organization that blocked my third eye. Now, let's let it go. You do not belong to that association any longer. Now take your point of attention back in your forehead, your desktop, and begin to move right straight back. And this time you'll feel yourself just slide back into your head, back to the pineal gland. Now this time, normally we go down first, but this time I want you to reach up through the crown chakra to Source, to God's Source, and go up through the dimensional levels as high as you can go, and you'll find that there's no block there now. You can rise up and to the male principal polarity of the God Source, which holds the template of your physical reality. Now, when you touch into that, and you will touch into light going up, it's incredible. And this is the source of anything you want to draw down into your system to reprogram yourself. Right now, just pull that light down, back down through the pineal gland, back down to your heart center, back down just through the chakra system, all the way to the root chakra. And here you're in the female polarity when you go past the heart. Now all the way into Earth Mind, into Gaia, Mother Earth, the female principle. And just feel that unified field now within yourself of who you really are. Just expand into oversoul and undersoul. Now our intent is to go into the innate system. And so you just relax, expand out from the conscious system into the unconscious innate system that controls the body. It's the system that connects with the quantum field. In the innate system now, this controls all your physical functionality. So move your point of attention back into the innate with the intent of opening your clairvoyance, your inner clairvoyance, so you can see orbs, so you can see spiritual bodies. Now, from within the innate body, you can contact anything, anywhere. And so you simply put your intent on clairvoyantly reaching outside of yourself to a spiritual being that is in your presence, and visualize an orb, a beautiful, gleaming, shimmering, radiant disincarnate soul that's with you now. It could be a guide, could be a helper. And you do this from your heart center, from the 0 point. That's where you access the quantum field. Just visualize and see an orb now. Now, these are everywhere. Just like Rich was explaining, even animals have spirit. Everything living has spirit within it. And you can ask to see anything and visualize it that way. And you can communicate with it. So reach out to the orb now from your heart center and touch its heart center. And you feel a recognition, an awareness, and just allow the clairvoyance to open up in your mind on your desktop. And feel a joy of recognition. Joy is your body signal for when you're doing something right. Now you can take this further to think about someone, a parent that's died or someone that was close to you. And reach out through the third eye, through the clairvoyant center. And attract the orb, the spiritual orb of that being back into your presence. And understand that when you're doing this, you're working in the quantum field. Everything is now. Everything is now. There's no past. No, everything is present. And so it's like to have a linear communication with the frontal lobes of the brain. You maintain contact with through the quantum field and reach out to the orb with a thought, with an intent, an expression of love. And that's when it becomes linear. So you can get linear information back from the orb. You simply say, I love you, and feel that the being, the person respond back in your head with I love you. Now in this open state of awareness, working through the innate field into the quantum field, you can do astral traveling, you can do a million things. This gives you access to everything possible. Rich, do you have any suggestions beyond what I've said?
Well, you could go Right now, you could ask your higher soul to show you where you originated from, um, and what your sole purpose is for coming here. Because I do that with people, especially energy workers. They come to me and they go, I feel like I've got this calling and everything. I said, well, you need to connect with your higher soul. So maybe that would be something we could do, just because I came from Syria, and I've been back there several times, and they showed me exactly what I was like, what I am like there. It's some sort of a light being that can manifest and through thought can create what it wants. It's like our souls are incredibly unique. So I would imagine there's quite a few interesting stories we could hear from all these people here. You've done that, Frank. I know you've done
yeah. That's reaching into your soul flow. It's a family of souls of which you are a part of. And so ask to see your soul flow. It's like a beam of energy that comes down from higher dimensions, and of all your family group, your twin souls. When I'm in the quantum field, it's difficult to communicate linearly, but just ask to see your soul group, and ask your soul group what your purpose is, and recognize that it won't be a verbal communication initially. It just like a packet of energy will come back because you're in the quantum field. A packet of energy will just come back and drop into your mind, and then it expands. It expands with awareness, and your job is to express that awareness in a linear form that your brain and mind can understand and internalize. This is how you access inner knowing and all knowing. You just feel the quantum packet. Who am I? What am I here to do?
The most important thing to remember in all of this is that it is required to be done from the heart center to the mind, and not vice versa.
Exactly. Thank you, Catherine.
Yes, if you go from the mind first, that's where the opposition could come in and start playing games with you. But if you go from your heart center through your mind, and the packets are given through your heart to your mind,
you form the intent in your mind and drop it into the heart center and wait, and it opens up. Rich, I think your mic is open. There, thank you. Now this is the true state of meditation, utilizing meditation to do things, not just to hang out in space.
There's nothing wrong with hanging out in space.
Not if you're a spacehead.
I'll salute you.
But what you're learning is how to consciously maintain your brain, your linear function, and take it into, step back through the pineal gland, back into the innate field, and then on back into the quantum field where everything exists as one now. And you can draw information from past lives, from other dimensions. You can astral travel, you can step into other dimensions. It's all done. And the more you do this, the easier it gets. Angel, do you have anything you'd like to contribute in this process?
For those who are learning and cannot gauge from which soul they originate from, you can go through maybe a list of all different, like you can say to yourself, am I from the Pleiades, am I from Andromeda, and then feel in your heart every time you say one of the different races, see how you feel. Sometimes you can see it from a person's body, but it's a good way to find out from where you are from, just to go within and see if you feel your heart resonates with the word that you pronounce. If you want to link your soul with different star nations. But also a soul can originate from one place and also travel into other galaxies. But it's good to always be very specific. So say, where does my soul originate from? And then you go through the list. That's a good way to learn as well.
And remember the principle, the process that you're using here is the clearing the way process of when you put your mind, your linear mind, on a subject, on an intent, on a question, and step back and just holding that question, that need, it opens all the channels, all the dimensions. So what you're doing as you do the practice this process is you're strengthening your capacity to go interdimensional, cross-dimensional, and use your psychic abilities. This is what psychic abilities are. And if you want to strengthen, like looking at the orb, if you want to call an orb up in your mind, an orb, as you put energy into it, in your desire and will to see orbs, and then use your camera to take a picture with your intent being to see orbs, energetically your system resonates with the camera, the electronics of the camera, and that allows the camera to download that energy that you are actually seeing internally into the camera. Isn't that how it works, Rich?
Yes, because the thing is, if you put your intent out there, they'll pick it up, and then they'll be drawn to you. They'll come to your camera, and the flash on the camera is just one fraction of a light that's just a little bit higher than what you and I normally see. Although you can see them in your mind's eye, but you can't show them to other people. So the reason why I take the pictures is to show them other people, and then you can capture it and you can study it, but you can also communicate with the orb once you get it on your camera. You can talk, just like you can anything else. But it's a really great exercise, Frank. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich, for coming back into our fold again, and we would like to look forward to seeing you here every time we meet now, because you open up vast fields that we can go into and in our studies and discuss and share and teach. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and Angel, you really bring up some interesting things for me to probe about because you do a lot of shamanic work. So I'm really interested in hearing about some of the things that you do and you can share. I don't know very many. I really don't know very many people outside of you guys that do what we do. There's a couple psychics here on the island, but one of them deals mostly with the aliens, and so that's another subject all by itself.
Yeah, we'll play with that next time. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
I'm always happy to share and anything I can contribute, I'm very happy to. Thank you.
And basically, we're at the end of our program now, but I'd like to express one more time that we are physicists. We study the physics of metaphysics and spirituality and bring it down into a linear language and form that anyone can relate to. And so if you tell others about us, welcome others into the fold, we always go through this process of not just talking about things, but teaching you how to do it. And so welcome everyone to newcomers, and we look forward to sharing with you on Sunday evenings, or no, where we go around the world. So it's 11 to 1 Mountain Standard Time on Wednesdays and Sundays. And we're delighted to have everyone with us. And normally we do the first hour, we explore things like we have today. In the second hour, we do healing work, because healing is such a wonderful way of using these techniques and energies and demonstrating how things work. So that's it for the day. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guys.
Yes, Happy New Year and love, everyone.
Not only more about gel coat. When the fourth round would...
Don't you call in the... More importantly, he knew what he was talking about.
Oh, does it look good already? Okay.
Jumbo Scampi for limited.
All for a price that will make you...
How the hell am I supposed to pay?
This is Rick Simpson, and you're listening to People for People Radio, the voice of truth in Scotland.